Welcome everyone to the Knitting by the Sea podcast. My name is Lisa and I am Saratoga Knitting on Instagram and on Ravelry and now on Threads as well. And I welcome you to my home today. I live in Marblehead, Massachusetts, which is a little harbor town just about 20 miles north of Boston, and I am lucky enough to live in a very, very old house. This house was built in 1750 and converted into a home in 1850. So today we will be doing a few things. I have some finished objects for you. I have some works in progress, and I have some knitting in the future. And I also have a giveaway today to do, along with some chatter at the end. So let's get started. Finished objects. I have three, I think, to show you today. Yes, three. Yes, three, four, three, I think, to show you and want to talk about a little bit. So the first one, of course, is the one that I am wearing, and this is the Roosty Pullover, and it is by Ella Gordon. And this was my Rhinebeck sweater for this year. It is a Fair Isle sweater that is knit in the round, and I did have to do steeking, so I had to do 3 steeks, one each on the armholes, and then one in the middle for the neckline. I still have not just done a cardigan where I have had to just do 1 steek up the middle. I'm always picking a pullover where I have to do 3 steeks. But this time I've done it before, and this time was even easier. Really, it's not a difficult thing once you understand what the concept is. And the concept is that you are knitting in the round. You don't want to knit back and forth on a Fair Isle piece, because knitting a pattern or purling a pattern backward is very, very difficult. So you want to be able to just knit in the round when you're doing a multicolored pattern like this. And basically all you do is add in an extra 7 or 9 stitches where you're going to cut your armholes and where you're going to cut your neck hole. The majority of it doesn't have that because this particular one started from the bottom up. So there's just ribbing, and then it's just knitting in the round with the pattern up until the armholes. And then you add in those additional extra stitches. And so you know what those stitches are. You're doing them with the same 2 colors that you're doing the every other row with. So you're still changing out your colors. And you're basically doing maybe a checkerboard pattern, so you know what the central stitch is that you're actually going to cut. And so then you do the same thing when you get up to the neckline. And then when you cut them, if you're using very woolly wool, which you should if you're doing any Fair Isle and planning to do steeking, you really do need to use some wool that's just very woolly. It has lots of scales on it because the scales catch each other. So superwash is not good for doing steeking, nor is acrylic good for doing steeking, because the stitches that you cut will just slide out, and then you're going to have some unraveling issues. But with a really woolly wool, so 100% wool, you don't have those issues because the scales really kind of bind together. You do want to do some, just catch them so that you're doing some kind of stabilization. It doesn't have to be much. Basically, all I did was took an extra piece of yarn, and I just did a running stitch up and down each side of the steek where I was going to cut it. Some people prefer to use a sewing machine to stabilize their steeks. Some people use a crochet hook and just crochet a line on each side, a little chain on each side to stabilize those stitches. But I've kind of tried a couple of different ways, and this was just, when I sat down to do it this time, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take a running stitch up, and that really seemed to work. It was not a problem. So when you're using 100% wool, and then you go ahead and cut those steek stitches to open it up, the stitches don't go anywhere. They don't unravel at all, and you can basically just tuck them in. I really never do anything with my steek stitches. They're still there. I don't know if you can see them, but here's the steek, right? It's right in here. That running stitch is still there on the inside, but I haven't done anything. I didn't weave in any of these ends. I just basically made sure everything was kind of knotted off and clipped it right down to the edge. Because what happens as you wear the piece, those pieces of yarn, because they're sticky and 100% wool, they tend to felt together with wear. So those steek stitches are not going anywhere. The steek stitches on the sides here, the same thing for the top. They're not going anywhere at all. You don't feel them. when you put them inside. Now, and the reason I'm doing that on this particular piece as well is that you don't see those steek stitches. So sometimes when not sometimes, but when you do a cardigan, when you're steeking a cardigan, you most likely want to put maybe sew a piece of ribbon on the inside, because a cardigan is going to open up, and you don't want to see this mess kind of if it's opened up. But, you can put a really lovely piece of grosgrain ribbon over those steek stitches on the inside, so that when your cardigan opens up, at any time, no one actually sees the steek stitches. They just see this lovely piece of grosgrain ribbon on the inside. So that's why people do that. But you don't have to do it on a pullover like this, because no one will ever see these steek stitches. And again, they are not uncomfortable whatsoever. And they just kind of sit inside, and they'll just kind of do their thing and felt up, and I'll have no problems with unwinding. This was a very enjoyable sweater to make, or pullover to make. I've had this on my list for a long, long time, and this year was the year I decided to do it and to make it my Rhinebeck sweater. I know Dan and Kay of the Bakery Bears. Dan is working on a Roosty pullover for Kay right now. She's chosen some more fallish colors, but I really liked these are basically the original colors that Ella had chosen. So I basically stuck to these original colors. I just like that pop of bright. I do have my other pullover that I had to steek was the Brensfield by Isolde Teague, and that one is all dark fall colors. So I wanted something a little bit different, and I was really very, very pleased with this. This is Knit Picks palette yarn. Again, I use this quite a lot, especially when I'm doing a project where I need lots of yarn and just little bits of it. The Knit Pick palettes works really, really well, and it's it's an inexpensive price point, so that's also very very helpful for people. So you can make a beautiful garment like this and not have to break the bank necessarily. You certainly can. There's beautiful yarns out there to use. But if you're knitting on a budget, there is nothing wrong with taking a look at Knit Picks, or if there's something similar to in your own particular country to do, because the garment will be beautiful. It is 100% wool, and they have a beautiful color range, which is why I really like to use them a lot when I'm doing a project like this. Now I did use this at Rhinebeck, but Rhinebeck the first day, I'm sure many of you know, it was very, very rainy and cool. So and I just was not prepared. I was not prepared. We haven't been to Rhinebeck in 3 years, and I just wasn't prepared correctly. I had packed everything to go, and I forgot to pack the turtlenecks that I planned to wear. I planned to wear a black turtleneck both days at Rhinebeck, and I forgot to pack them. And when I realized that, when we got to our Airbnb, I just was, head down shaking. And so basically I happened to have a couple of black t-shirts with me. So that's what I had to wear. And that was really all I had. I had t-shirts, and then I had planned to have these turtlenecks because I know it was going to be cool. So I basically wore this with a black t-shirt. It was not quite as comfortable as it is with the turtleneck. I could also wear this with a shirt as well. I just haven't. I normally wear them with a turtleneck. I really like pullovers like this. We call them vests here. I really like these a lot. They're just they're a versatile piece that I can put on when I go into the office, and I'm not going to be, I'm just going to be kind of just warm enough. It's not too bulky to go under a heavy coat when it gets cold, but then it's not too bulky when I get to the office if the heat is up. It's not up in most of the time in our particular office, but sometimes it is. So this is a really great layering piece for me, and I really do enjoy it. So I thoroughly enjoyed completing this for Rhinebeck, and I did have it done before. I will say that I was not working on it at the last minute, which is good because my brain was really not functioning very well. But I really I enjoy this, and this was great. I really recommend this pattern. It was really fun to do. The second project that I want to show you is also a very special project, and this is a project that is done mostly in some very special Icelandic yarn, and this is it here. And Sophia went to Iceland, and she purchased this yarn for me, and I don't think you can get this online. I think you can only get it if you're in country in Iceland. So she brought me 2 skeins of this, and so I've been making some things as I go along. the first one, and this one doesn't have the ends woven in yet because I do need to block it, but it's really beautiful. And this is called the Puddle Wonderful Cowl, and it's by Tanya Marie Anderson, who's a sampler girl on Instagram. And I just love it. It's just a cute little cowl pattern. What was perfect, and so here it is. I think I've shown this to you before, but it's really cute. And I just used some local farm yarn as accent, so I have the red in there. But it's just really pretty. A quick knit, and I'm hiding the the ends that aren't quite done yet. But I will be. I haven't blocked this, and the only reason I haven't blocked it yet is because it hasn't really been cold enough to need a cowl, but it's suddenly getting there. So I need to get this blocked up so I can just put it in my rotation. And in order to go with this, I also decided, because I had a whole second skein, I had 2 skeins of it, and I didn't use the whole first skein for the cowl, so I had some left over. So I decided to make some mitts. I'll just put these on. This is just my own pattern. I've made mitts for forever, so I just kind of wing it when I'm doing mitts, whether they're having a thumb put in, or maybe I'll look at a pattern to just do a thumb gusset if I want to. Sometimes I don't do any thumb at all, but these are really pretty. So these are basically no name and just my own pattern. And so I've done the same thing here. So this is all the beautiful yarn from Iceland, and then I've done the thumbs and the ribbing here at the bottom and at the top with that contrast yarn. And so these are perfect. Again, it's Icelandic, so it's very, very warm. I'm very happy with these. These I've already worn. These I admit that I have worn. I have had to wear a hat, and I've used these to get up to the bus stop. So I think these are going to get a lot of wear this winter. And so this was a project, and I still have a skein left, and I'll show you what I'm doing that when I get to works in progress. So that's my second finished object. My third finished object is My Favorite Blanket by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. It's very big, which is lovely. We've been working on this. Is a project that she's been doing on their podcast, and every 2 months. And she actually has been dyeing up the yarn to do in different stripes for each section of the pattern that she's doing, and it's lovely, and that's a beautiful way to do it. I don't dye yarn, and I don't have enough skeins of single color yarn or enough skeins of fingering weight yarn to do that, although it's a great idea to do. So basically what I do is I just keep all my scraps, and I will use them when I do a blanket like this. So this is all my fingering weight scraps, which is amazing. It just means that I've made a ton of socks over the many years of knitting that I've done. And so here is this blanket, and it really is beautiful. So basically, when I ran out of one color, I just added another color. This blanket uses, so you are using 2 strands held together. That's what I was getting to. So 2 strands held together all the way down. And again, when I ran out of one, I would just grab my bag and just pick up another one. So there's no color scheme. Whatever I started with, I think this is the starting point, and it just goes on. And it's worked on the diagonals, which is really interesting. And then there in the middle of it, there are, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, but there are some yarn overs, so it creates a little bit of a patterning in the middle of it, and then it just keeps on going. So this is one of those patterns where you start out with 3 stitches and you go all the way down to the other end and end up with 3 stitches. So this is great. It's big because we've been working on it all year, and I'm really happy. I have this off of the needles. I just finished it last night, and I just threw it right on the couch and put it on, and it was really really enjoyable. I really like it, and I am very happy. And this means that I literally have pretty much used up all of my scraps. So that's amazing. So now I need to get back and start knitting lots of socks again, so I have more scraps when I want to do another scrappy blanket. But again, this is My Favorite Blanket by Kay Jones, and I think at some point, I think they said the last time, at some point they're going to put out. When you got this pattern, each time she put it up, and then they gave you you could get each section of it. I think they're going to put up maybe just for patrons, the whole pattern all together. I think this was for everybody. I think they might be putting this up for everybody. It's such a simple pattern, but they're going to put the whole pattern together and do some really, pretty pictures and make it look more like a pattern rather than just kind of a recipe that we've been getting every 2 months. So, but beautiful. I'm very happy with it. Good way to use up scraps, and it's going to keep us really warm this winter. My last project I don't have with me, and I'll talk more about this at the end, but it is, because I'm sure people will ask about it, it is the epic blanket project that I was doing with Patricia of Knitography and her whole group. She very generously offered to kind of walk everyone through this beautiful pattern. She does an epic pattern every year, and this is an epic blanket pattern that you do in stripes. And I've used Nutiden yarn. I've used hand spun yarn. I've used some commercial yarn, and it's just been a joyful project. But it is finished. I don't have it with me, and as I said, I will talk about that a little bit more at the end, because I didn't finish it the way I was supposed to. But I'll talk about that at the end. So let's move on to some works in progress. Works in progress. I have 4 to show you today. The first one is my pair of socks that I always have on the go. As you know, or most of you know, if you're not new here, that I travel to Boston 2 days a week. And part of that commute to Boston is a 20-25 minute bus ride. And usually I like to take out a small project and knit on it while I'm doing that, listen to a podcast. And socks are usually my go-to thing. So that's why in the past I've knit lots and lots of socks. And I knit a lot more on socks when we were in the office 5 days a week. But now that I'm only going in 2 days a week, I don't do quite as much sock knitting, but I always have a pair on the go. And the pair I'm going to show you today are the Simple Skype socks. I've used this pattern many times, and I really, really enjoy it. It is a free pattern on Ravelry by Adrienne Koo. And it is really fun to do. So I'm using this really crazy ball of yarn. I don't have the tag anymore, and I don't remember the name of it, but I got about 3 or 4 bags of these several months ago from my local yarn shop, Marblehead Knits. She was having a sale, and I probably have shown this before. So if you go back and look at one of my other my earlier videos, I probably have talked about actually what yarn this is, but it's great because it is both kind of self-striping and kind of fading. So the stripes kind of fade into each other, and I really like it. I just think it's crazy and fun to work with. I always do my socks toe up with the short row heel, no matter what patterning I'm going to use on the top of the foot and on the leg. It's just what works for me, and I always encourage people find out what type of sock you like to do. Lots of people like to do them cuffed down. They like to do them with a heel flapping gusset, a different type of toe, whatever works for you. And you determined what works best on your foot, and then just add in whatever patterning you need, no matter what pattern you're actually purchasing. You don't have to do the toes, heels, and top down or bottom up exactly the same as the pattern. Socks are really very freeing, and you can really do whatever you want and modify them to what works best for you. So these are what I'm working on right now. I'm going to show you, if I can show you the patterning a little bit up close. It's really easy. I think it's really a 2-row repeat once you get going, and it's really easy to memorize. And it gives just enough interest so that you're not just knitting. You have to think about it a little, but not a lot. It's perfect for 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning knitting. And what I usually do on socks like this, I will actually do the patterning only on the foot and the front of the sock, and then I can always see what it just looks like on the back, whether it's striping or not. So these are just really fun. I thought this was a second sock, but it's only the first one of this pair. So I'm almost done with the leg on this one. So give me a couple more weeks and I'll be done with this sock and move on to the second sock of this pair. So that is really fun. And I am enjoying working on the socks and enjoying the colors that I have there. My second work in progress is, This is what I was talking about, what I'm using to knit up the rest of the beautiful Icelandic yarn that Sophia brought home for me. And this is called the, I can't read it, of course, the Birds and Ship Cowl. And it is by Caitlin Hunter. And I actually saw this on the Knit My Way Home podcast first. Loretta had made one of these, and she did a show recently on some different shawls that she has knit. And this one really caught my fancy. It's really beautiful. It starts out with a little tab, a tab beginning, and then you knit flat for a little bit, and then you join it in the round and continue on down. And I just thought this would be perfect. I am actually pairing the Icelandic yarn with some lace weight black. I just thought it would give it a little more heft, just something a little more interesting for me to do. So I'm knitting with both of these. Now it's hard to see because it's not blocked, but basically you have this really beautiful garter stitch beginning, and then you have this lovely panel of lace in the middle. And then the lace goes all the way down. And then when you join in the round, then you begin to, as you're knitting through, you're not knitting back and forth anymore. And so you're just knitting. So it's a beautiful stockinette pattern. And it goes this lace piece goes all the way down to the tip. I believe you have the option of only doing the lace part way. I mean, you would have that option anyway if you wanted to. Or you can do the pattern shows the lace going all the way down. The lace is it's a little bit different doing it in the round than it was back and forth, but perfectly fine. And then it ends up with this really cool tassel at the end. So I am pretty close to getting there. I just haven't finished yet. But the lace pattern, of course, will really stretch out and show. Can't really see it anymore yet, but it will really show once it is blocked. Once it's blocked out, and it's really very beautiful. So I'm looking forward to this. And thanks, Loretta, for the idea to do this. It's a perfect way for me to use up my second skein of that beautiful gift yarn that Sophia gifted to me. Let's see. The third project I am really enjoying. And the third project is the In and Out Raglan sweater. I think I've mentioned this before, but Ivana of the Republic of Me podcast and blog, she is a wonderful podcaster. She lives on the island of Cyprus. So her weather is very, very different from what it is here. It's very tropical. And so she has lots of tropical plants, but she does amazingly beautiful spinning. She spins a lot. She knits a lot with her spinning. She does beautiful weaving. She weaves with her hand spun, which is also amazing. And she is a painter as well. And she creates these beautiful, beautiful portraits. But she is just so calming to watch. I know, as we all are. I know she probably doesn't feel calming when she's recording, but she has just this really calm way of presenting herself and presenting what she is doing. Just lovely music playing for us as well. And she shows a lot of footage of her working in her garden outside around in their pool area. So that's lovely. And she often goes on trips. So she will sometimes, have some video, different trips that she takes to Europe and beyond. But one of the things that she has done is that when she knits, she rarely knits from a pattern. So she knits blankets on her own, just sets them up and goes. And she also knits sweaters on her own. She knows what fits her. And so basically she has a formula for herself and also for her mother and her sister, whoever else she might be making a sweater for. She has a basic formula that she always goes to. And people have asked if she'd ever write that up. And so what she did a few months ago, she finally did, and she posted it. And it really is a recipe for this sweater on her blog. And it is free. You can just go there and take a look. But it is, she did a lot of work on it and sets it up so based on your gauge and the yarn that you're using, what number of stitch count you have per inch. There's a whole chart of where you're going to start and the number of stitches that you're going to end up with, which is why it's called the In and Out Raglan sweater. it is a raglan increases on the shoulder, starts at the neck and then makes raglan increases, and then you knit down for the body, and then you pick up and complete both sleeves at the end. You can make this sweater as long as you want, as cropped as you want. You could make it with just a boat neck. You don't need to do it shows a turtleneck collar, but you don't need to do that. You could do a rollover collar. You could just do a crew neck collar. You really have some freedom. You could make long sleeves. You could make short sleeve. You could make 3/4 length sleeves. Whatever you really want to do. It's a formula on doing it. And so I decided that I was going to try it. And when I'm really using this first sweater, I love it, and I think it will be perfect, and I will wear it. But I think I will use it as a gauge because I could take this sweater and then. Depending upon, I think it might be medium fitted the way I think it's coming out. So I would be able to then take this sweater and know that with these number counts and using worsted weight yarn and the needle size that I was using, that if I went up a few numbers and in the chart, then my sweater would come out would come out a little looser. So maybe I'd like to do that. I could keep the same count for the neck if the neckline works well, or turtleneck, and then maybe increase for the body to make it a little more flowy. You could make the arms tighter. You can make the arms bigger. Really, it all depends upon your gauge and the type of yarn you're using, the gauge, and your knitting needle, and then you can really kind of go anywhere with this pattern. And that's why I really like it. So I'm very happy with this. I started this on our vacation, which was really nice. So this is it. I'm using this really gorgeous rust color yarn. This is Cascade 220. Cascade 220 is another really good workhorse yarn. I use it often. I used to use it all the time back when I lived in Saratoga. I think my local yarn shop had a whole wall full of Cascade 220, and it's 220 yards. So that's what it's called. It's worsted weight, and it's 100% wool. So it's really great. Oh, I think it's 100% wool. I should check and see. I don't know if I have the tag in here or not. I might not. I probably do. I'll check for the next time if I remember to look and see. I don't think I have the tag with me, but it's a woolly yarn, and it is really really great. And I like to use it for. Again, it's very cost effective when you're making a sweater. And again, this for me, I definitely will use this sweater, and I will wear this all the time. But it's kind of a working document for me, so to speak, so that I can actually take a look at it and see how it fits and how I might make some changes to it. So maybe another time I would use some really gorgeous special yarn to make this. Ivana also often uses a combination of maybe a worsted with some type of fuzzy yarn. I could do that. Certainly do that as well to give it a little more of a halo rather than just the plain worsted. But I'm really enjoying this. But let me show you. So as I said, it starts out at the neck. This is a twisted rib, which is really nice. I think a twisted rib just looks nice, and it also pulls in, which any rib will do. But it's very, very pretty. It's very nice. And then you start there, and then you begin your increases. So you're doing your raglan increases along the shoulder line, and then you bind off stitches on both sides for the arms. I just picked up one of the arms last night, so I'm on my way with that. And then you just knit all the way down to the end. Again, you can make it as long or as short as you like, and then you put another twisted rib down here at the bottom. I like my sweaters a little bit longer, so that's what I did with this. But again, I'm going to kind of use this as a template for my next sweater. But I'm really, really happy with this. So this will be really great. I'm really super happy, and you can see that's what I'm going to use, that other yarn that I bought on vacation to make my second one of these. I can certainly see having an entire wardrobe just of these, and I would love to, that could be a goal. I would love to spin enough to make a sweater, and this would be a perfect thing to plan to do. And I'm really just enjoying this. It's also just knitting. It's just stockinette in the round, which at the end you'll know why I need to have a lot of that in my life right now. But yes, I'm very pleased with this, and it goes really, really quickly. It's easy. These are now. I'm sure I'm going to fly through these sleeves, and I should be done by the next time on my podcast. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased with this. So take a look at that pattern. As I said, it's free, and it is on her blog, and I'll put a link to that. It's certainly in the description box. The last thing I just wanted to show you, because I think I have done a little bit of work on it since we talked last, is my counted cross stitch. I used to do counted cross stitch pretty exclusively when I was younger. I started out, I did a little knitting when my grandmother taught me first, but then I think my mother didn't want to invest a lot in yarn and wasn't really confident that I could actually like make something other than a scarf. And so I kind of graduated to doing crochet, and I made a lot of crochet blankets, and I think that was a little bit more cost effective for her, for me to do as a kid. Once I got a little bit older, I started to do counted cross stitch. I really liked it. I had a few kits, and then that had the pattern imprinted on the fabric, and then I kind of graduated from there to doing the counted cross stitch, which is just you start with a blank piece of fabric. Could be white, any color you want. I've done both white and black, but a blank piece of canvas, and then you have the pattern, and you have to count because you're looking at your pattern and you're doing your stitches, your extra stitches as you go. So anyway, when Sophia and I came back from Egypt 2 summers ago, I was thinking that I really might like to try cross stitch again. Knitting had taken over, and of course my eyes got a little bit worse as time went by. Hopefully that will be a lot better once I have my cataract operations coming up shortly. But I thought, maybe I'll kind of get back, like to try it again. And I was looking around for some patterns, and I found this amazing pattern that is Egypt themed. And let me show it to you. It is, here it is here. So I think I've done most of the bottom section now. So I'm kind of working my way over here. But it really is it's really beautiful. I really like this concept, and that you're just using one color. That was also another good thing for me. So I just bought a ton of this one particular blue, and that's all I'm using. But it will have it will have pyramids up here, so you can see this entire piece of fabric will eventually be filled in. So it is a multi-year project. This is not something I'm going to have done shortly. But what happens is that I will all of a sudden I'll get the urge and I'll pull this out, and I'll just work on this for a week. And then I'll put it away, and then another month later I might pull it out and do some work on it again. But I am just really enjoying getting back into this, and it's really been a lot of fun for me to do, and so I'm pretty excited about this. So I'll continue to show you this as we go along. But as I said, it will be a long time before it is finished. So I think that's all that I have to show you today. So let's move on to the giveaway portion. All right, giveaway portion today. I haven't done a giveaway in a while, and I'm kind of excited to do that today. I was contacted probably maybe 2 months ago by a book publisher, and to ask if I'd be interested in taking a look at one of their new books. It's by Ashley Wemp, and I said, sure, send it along. I'd love to take a look at it. Sophie and I are always looking for new techniques or new patterning, and I actually I do still have pattern books, but I haven't gotten a new one in a while, so this was kind of exciting. And this book is called The Mosaic Knitting Workshop, Modern Geometric Accessories for You and for Your Home. And this is the book here. And let's see the back. And I was actually really excited to get it. I have done mosaic knitting in the past, and I have enjoyed it. And I can show you, where is it here? This is the pattern that I've done. I'm sure many of you will remember this pattern or actually know this pattern. I'm just looking to see which is the back or the front here. So this is called the Destination Unknown by Cheryl Faust. And this is a really beautiful pattern. And this is mosaic knitting. And I did this a couple of years ago and totally enjoyed it. And I haven't done any mosaic knitting in a while. And so I thought this was perfect. Let me take a look at this book and see what it is all about. But this is just an example of mosaic knitting. And I did a quick look on Ravelry this morning too, and I found there were lots of mosaic knitting patterns. And I think it's kind of something that's kind of starting to come into fashion again. Not that it really went out of fashion, but the mosaic knitting is a great way to do color work without having to hold 2 colors of yarn. So you're basically doing each row 2 times. So you're going across with one color and slipping the other color, and then you're coming back and doing that same row again, doing the opposite, slipping and knitting based on the patterning. Sounds complicated, but it really isn't, and it's a really easy and fun way to get into some color work if you're kind of afraid to do Fair Isle. So this book is great. It has most of the patterns are kind of done with chunkier yarn, which also is really great for someone who's beginning it in it. But she has all kinds of all of the basic information that you need, your tools and materials. She's giving you examples of how to read the chart, because that's the important thing with mosaic knitting. Once you kind of master that, then you're home free. You're right on. You're just able to go. She talks about color mixing, because you do need to have 2. You want to have 2 colors that are contrasting. You don't want to have anything that's not that you can't see the difference of. But these really they almost have a southwestern motif looking, and they're just gorgeous. Sophia was like, "Ooh, I want to do that. I want to do that blanket here." Tons of projects, from little small ones to coasters to, as I said, the big one, the big blanket. I really liked the coasters. They're maybe a great idea for holiday gift giving. She's got some towels to do here, and again, all of this is charted with the explanation on how to do it, and shows you different examples of different colors and how they look together. Kitchen cloths, and just some really gorgeous people. There's a floor mat that you can do, which is great. That's a great idea. And a crib blankets and a scarf. I like this. I really like this. I'm really drawn to the 2 different colors, but this is really beautiful. Very beautiful. So a lot of mosaic knitting is very geometric as well. I have found. So isn't this is really beautiful. I like that color combination there. And that's again for the scarf, but all kinds of little cup cozies, etc. And then I think the most important part about this, if you're someone that's new to mosaic knitting, is really in the back portion. She has she has pattern notes on each of the particular patterns, but then at the end there is an entire section talking about the techniques. So she has techniques and skills that you need, and this is fantastic because it's done she's writing about it, and she's also going through and having the pictures in it, just how to do your basics, how to do some different cast-offs that you might like to use with it, how to pick up stitches in mosaic knitting, and then how to design your own motifs if you like to, because you certainly can design your own and go from there. And she even gives you a patterning piece where you can draw your own out as well. So I really enjoyed this, and I think this is a great book. I actually did. I'm not sure how. See, now this is. I didn't choose colors. I just grabbed some. Some yarn that I had over at my mother-in-law's because I wanted to sit down and try it. But and I did not use the right needle size either for this yarn. It was kind of tight. But I just picked up one of the patterns that she had in there and just did a small sample, and it was great. It was really easy to do. It was very easy to follow the chart, and it kind of like sparked me to go back and to look at the projects in this book, but also look at the projects that are out on Ravelry and kind of kind of get back to trying some mosaic knitting again as well. So I was very pleased to get this, and of course they sent along a copy to give to you, which is wonderful. So I am most anxious to send this to someone who is really interested in trying a new technique, not necessarily a new technique, but really if it's new to you or you haven't gotten into it. And so again, this is Mosaic Knitting Workshop by Ashley Kemp, and it's really it is. I think it's great. I'm very happy to have a copy, and I know that Sophia is just waiting for me to finish so she can grab this from me, because a lot of these projects have her name written all over them. But in addition to that, what I also have, I purchased some yarn a couple of months ago, and I got 3 skeins, 2 of which I'm going to keep, but one I bought to give away, and it's from Knits for Comfort, and this one is called Day at the Beach. It's 463 yards of fingering weight. It is merino superwash and nylon, so it's perfect for a pair of socks. So this is it here. So if you're interested in entering, you would get both the book and the skein of yarn together. And so what I thought I would do, I'll just do this as on YouTube. So you can leave me a comment down below. And I think what I would just like you to comment on is what you think about or what you like about trying out a new knitting or crafting technique. And then the next time I podcast, I will pick a winner, and we'll get this sent out to you. So good luck. All right, so now let's move on to some chatter. So what has been happening? Quite a lot has happened really since the last time I spoke. We did have our floors done. They came out incredibly beautiful. I think I have some pictures, and I'll add them at the end. But I was not as positive that it was going to make as big a change as it did as my husband was. He was really pushing for this. And I have to say now that he was absolutely right. They are beautiful. And because the floors, they've been sanded down, so they're completely smooth. They just feel beautiful, and they look beautiful. And it just goes with this very, very old house. And it's a once in a lifetime project for us for this house. And they will just mellow and be more beautiful as we go. Of course, to do that, we had to move all of the furniture. We didn't do our bedroom, but everything else, except for the small office across the way, because that has a painted floor. But everything else had to be literally moved out as if we were moving. So we had to get movers. We got a pod that a friend of ours let us put in his driveway. And we had to have everything moved out of the house. Poor Sophia had to move over with my in-laws and take the cat with her for probably about a week and a half. Mark and I went on vacation. We're like, we're out. We don't have anywhere else to go. So we planned to do that. So we went down to the Cape. We stayed in Sandwich, where we used to live years and years ago, which was lovely. We had a lovely Airbnb, which was a second floor apartment, which was perfect because Mark brought his guitar, and he was able to do all of his guitar practicing when he not disturbing anybody. It didn't feel tight or anything like you would in a hotel room. And we had a kitchen, so we went out several times, but we also cooked, which was also very very relaxing. I did a lot of reading, and I did a lot of knitting. That's where I started the In and Out Raglan sweater. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. We did lots of walking. The weather was not great, but it's the Cape and it's Massachusetts. It was perfectly fine. We had a couple of really great meals. There was a little restaurant literally around the corner from where we stayed, which was great. I mean, I would have eaten there every single night, but we couldn't really do that. So we had a couple of great meals there. We had a really great meal, a really great seafood meal, which was real fun. A couple of places we went weren't so good, and they were a little surprising, but it's okay. You know, that's what happens on vacation. Drank lots of coffee, had just lots of relaxed time, which was really, really nice. And then we came back, and the floors were completely done. And then we had to have all of the. And then once we got back, I had to go back to work. And if you know, I know some of you out there work in the financial aid field, and I mentioned this the last time we podcast, but we still have no information from the federal government about when FAFSAs are actually going to be ready for students for the 24-25 academic year, when the all of the information to update our school systems will be ready. So we are under stress because we're waiting, chomping at the bit to get ready, because there's just so much work that needs to go into updating a computer system in order to roll over to the new award year. And of course, this is across the country. So every single admissions office in the country is panicking right now because they want to get some type of award letter out, trying to make decisions. Are you going to do estimated award letters? Are you just going to send out institutional aid and wait on the federal aid? And it is mind-boggling that this is happening right now. We're also looking once again at a potential shutdown next week of the federal government if they don't put in a spending plan or pass a budget, and that will also affect this because the Department of Education is not necessarily a group that is deemed necessary to work during a shutdown. So we're just shaking our heads and waiting. So that's kind of where my mindset is at work right now. I have almost a full staff, which is fantastic. So there's just so many things, so many good things that we're starting to look at doing outside of this craziness, and I'm really happy about that. So I actually have a lot of help in doing what I was doing 4 jobs before. So now I'm only really doing maybe 2.5. Still doing some, but things that that aren't in my job description. But that's okay. We'll get there. And we're coming up on Thanksgiving break, and then we also have a week off at Christmas. So in between now and Christmas, we just don't know what type of work we're going to have to do between them, or how much of a Christmas break we're really going to get if these things happen. So that it's a little bit stressful on that side of things, but it's okay. I have a lot of help, so it's way better than it was last year. I've also had COVID for the second time. It was horrendous, and this time I just thought it was allergies, and it wasn't. I was away, and I was just taking Claritin, using Afrin, thinking this is just allergies, because it didn't feel the way COVID did the last time. First time I had COVID, I felt it was like the flu more. It was just, I was achy. I was running a fever. I was just exhausted and tired. I had no upper respiratory symptoms whatsoever. This was completely different. I didn't feel bad outside of not being able to breathe and sneezing and a little bit of coughing. And I knew I didn't feel great. You never feel great when you have a bad cold like that. But it really didn't hit me that was potentially what it was, because I was in a situation right before that where I potentially could have, had some allergies starting up, and it was a little bit rainy. So I get a little bit allergic to mold as well. And seemingly taking the Claritin, which is anti-allergy medication here in the States, kind of held it off a little bit, but it just got worse. And by the time I got home, Mark was like, you'd better do a test. And I'm like, no, I'm sure it's not it. And sure enough, as soon as I did the test, I got the 2 bright lines on there, and I was like, oh no. So that kind of changed everything. I did get the Paxlovid because I'm old enough and I have asthma, etc. So that they do recommend getting the Paxlovid in order. It's an antiviral medication here that helps just reduce the symptoms so that you don't get super sick from it. So I started that, and I had to stay away from my in-laws and just stay home for 5 or 6 days, which again, work-wise is fine. I was able, we're set up to work at home anyway, and I have my computer here, and I did take a couple of days off. I'm not perfect. Wasn't trying to overdo things. I did take definitely took a couple of days off to do that. But the last thing that I want to tell you about is it's very sad for us, but it's an interesting a sad but interesting experience. My father-in-law, probably about maybe like a month and a half ago now, his health has been failing, and we've been able to see that, but there wasn't really any indication of what it was. He was kind of losing some weight. He was, he was losing a little bit of his cognitive abilities. He couldn't find words, would lose his train of thought when he was talking. So there were some issues that were going on, but we really didn't know exactly what it was. He was having some coughing issues. The doctor sent him to the hospital to the emergency room just to have a chest X-ray done. And they were able to do that, but it was later in the day, and so they kept him overnight. So that night, my mother-in-law had a call from the attending physician in the hospital, and he asked if he could have a family meeting. So when you hear that, something not good is going to be told to you. And in fact, that was the case. The doctor was wonderful. I don't know how he does it. I mean, they do this kind of thing, but he's never met any of us before. And he had the whole family there, including my father-in-law. And he basically had to tell us that he has inoperable cancer, and they don't know exactly where it started, but it has spread. So he has cancer in his lungs. He probably has cancer in his prostate. It could be in his stomach, intestines, and it certainly probably has some cancerous lesions in his brain, which is why he was beginning to have these cognitive issues. The doctor basically, was like, it's time, because he's 92 years old. He's not he's not a spring chicken. He's lived a very long life, but the doctor was basically, he's like, we could start to do many kinds of tests and see, and try to put him through treatment for this, but the treatment itself will not be good for. He would not tolerate that, and his recommendation is that we go home, we talk about it, and most likely take a look at hospice care. So that is the decision that was made. We did take him home. They gave us a contact for hospice. Hospice came pretty quickly, and it really is an amazing service. Now he probably still has a few months to live. It won't be 6 months. You can tell by his particular situation, but he still has a few months to go. So hospice will just manage the time. So they'll really do everything for us. We just had a hospital bed delivered yesterday for him, make him a little bit more comfortable. They're going to manage any pain that happens, which could. The doctor suspected that it probably will go into the bones, and when that happens, that he will begin to experience some pain. So they will manage the pain medication for us. There's just so much that goes into it. They bring him any supplies that he may need. And they're just very kind and generous in what they do. The nurse comes once a week, and she probably spends about 45 minutes with either the family or with my father-in-law, or just my father-in-law, my mother-in-law. Sometimes it's just them. I'll join them if I happen to be there that day. I think my mother-in-law finds that helpful because she doesn't hear very, very well. But so we basically are kind of watching him go fairly rapidly downhill. Mark was going over every day in the morning to play some chess with him, but he can't do that anymore. He finds he gets tired even just like sitting up for a long period of time. So it's definitely a difficult time, but I'm really happy that we found this out, so that we have hospice care to go along with this particular process. Sophia just happened. It was happenstance to have gotten from the bookstore a book called The In Between, and I will put the link to it in the on the bottom. I can't remember the hospice nurse who wrote it, but it's a New York Times bestseller list. I'm sure many of you actually have heard it or perhaps read it. It's extremely helpful right now and very, very interesting, because she just has written all different chapters, but they're vignettes of different patients that she has treated and what that process has been from her personal, on a personal level between her and the patients, and what she's had to go through and what the patients have gone through, and what she gains from doing hospice, and why she just feels that it is a it's a profession that she's never going to leave. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book, and it was really helpful for us to be reading it right now. And I will put the link. I'll put the link in that. But finally, as to say, that is why my epic blanket is now finished. It is not done. We had a stripe pattern that was going from January through December. And then the goal was it's a beautiful blanket. And then you would weave all the way up the blanket, just single pieces of yarn. So you'd have a contrast with the stripes, and then these single pieces of yarn going up and down with tassels at the end. I decided that my blanket was very big anyway, because I was using a lot of hand spun. So it was thicker. And it already was very, very long. Now, if this hadn't happened, I would have continued on with it, but I just decided that nope, I'm going to bind this off now, and I'm going to give it to my father-in-law. He is very cold. He's lost so much weight. He just doesn't have any fat to keep him warm on him. So he's always pumping the heat in the house up. And I was like, he has an acrylic blanket. It just doesn't cut the mustard, so to speak, in this particular case. So I bound it off, and I brought it over to him, and it is his now, and it's wool, it's hand spun. It's going to keep him warm all the way through this process. So I'm actually very grateful that Patricia offered us this opportunity at the beginning, because I had no idea about this when I started last January, but it really has been it's the perfect ending for this particular epic project. And I just feel like something in the universe came together to have me start this project and continue on through it, because it's something that he ends up needing here at the end of his life. So I'm very happy to have him. He uses it every day. It's just keeping him warm at a time when he really, really needs that. And that's the goal of every knitter, is to either, do a project that you, number one, either enjoy, number one, that you use, number two, that it's a useful product, and that you're getting use out of it, or someone else is getting use out of it. It's certainly my goal is to always be able to use what my projects that I am knitting, whether it's socks or a pullover, a sweater, or a blanket. And that also leads me on to say, I'll end here, but I also, we are horrified at, oh, did you see the cat just walked by a little bit there at the bottom? But we certainly in our family are horrified by what has been happening in the world, and not only certainly internationally, but in our own country. And I don't even know how I'm going to manage to get through the next year, because our presidential election is not until next November. So we have an entire year of the crazy before we get to that point. And I think the majority of people in this country are just looking for some adults to come into the room and take care of things, and the adults are not there right now. And I am not looking forward to the next year of news, whether it is international or whether it is national for us. But on that note, I just want to say that please take care of yourself, be good to yourself, just enjoy the warmth of home during this upcoming season, and keep your knitting close, because that's what it does for us. It's a comfort for me, and I hope that the process is also a comfort for you as well. So I think that's all for today. So thanks for joining me, and we'll talk again. Bye.